Welcome back to Morning Express. Now, to set the ball rolling on the second leg of conversations on the program this morning, we'll be taking a look at it from a political angle with a very heated polity, and of course, the 2027 general elections ahead of us. We'll be reviewing ethical governance and political culture in Nigeria. And our guest today is Dr. Prince Rekz Edwards, President, G7 Patriots International. A very good morning to you, sir.
Thank you so much
for finding the
Thanks
time
a
to
lot.
come
I
into the
appreciate
studio.
it. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
It's the second part of a two-part conversation we had started a while ago. It's back on the political landscape. There's a lot happening. But when we talk about ethical governance, there's a wide notion that the current crop of politicians we have jettisoned governance and are all looking forward to 2027 in terms of canvassing for re-elections or even fresh ambitions. How do we adjudge this notion in current day Nigeria?
Well, I want us to look at the word ethical first. Another one for ethical could be morality, could be something that is right. So we're talking about right governance. And you know, ethical governance is leadership that is guided by one, accountability, two, transparency, three, it's equity and fairness. Yeah. So these things I mentioned, with a couple of other things, are what guides ethical governance, right governance. Well, like rightly said, the road to 2027 for me is still quite far. And it's quite unfortunate that today, under this present administration, our leaders have forgotten about governance. People are not feeling the impact of democracy. People are not getting the impact of the dividends of this democracy. It's all about 2027. And I'm seeing it for the first time that we have forgotten. And this thing started since last year. There's been a series of decamping to the ruling party. We almost turned the country to a one-party state. Nobody's talking about why are you voted in there. Democracy, from the point of view of Abraham Lincoln, is government of the people, which means power resides with the people. People decide who goes in. People decide what you do. They want to feel the impact of democracy.
And you think power isn't really with the people in the Nigerian situation?
Come on, it's not. Let's go back to the political culture we are talking about. These two concepts are very important. Important in the sense that they build functional democracy, sustainable development. These two concepts bring about, they build trust between the leaders and the citizens. The question is, do the citizens still believe and trust their leaders? Right now, we are not seeing the dividends of democracy. Governance is one-sided. Everybody is talking about 2027. They have jettisoned governance, jettisoned the very essence while they are voted into power. And all we're talking about right now is who wants to be or who wants to occupy this position in 2027. That is not what it's supposed to be.
Now, you started by saying ethical also translates to morality. But in current day Nigerian, what's the moral compass like? People talk about self-interest vis-a-vis service to the people. We've talked about electing leaders based on competence per se, but now you're bringing morality into the mix as well. How do we judge this as the Nigerian electorate?
I'm looking at morality in terms of governance, morality in terms of competence. You understand? What is the right thing? That's why, if you remember the last discussion we had, I told you, do we have a political culture? Like I said, these things build trust between the citizens and those who are governed. And if you in particular are elected into position based on your competence and based on your credentials, you need to deliver. And then don't forget that you are constitutionally guided. You took an oath to do this, to lead, to serve. The fact is that oath being obeyed? No. It's all about selfishness. It's all about me, myself, and I. And that is not the essence of democracy.
Now, a statement was recently made by the African Democratic Congress, ADC, to the All Progressives Congress, where they were chiding the APC for what they described as an illegal campaign ahead of the 2027 general elections, even while Nigerians are suffering. I just want your opinion or your perspective on this. The ADC is accusing the APC of illegally campaigning for elections in 2027. Meanwhile, they are busy with the coalition that they are forming still ahead of 2027. Is this a case of a kettle calling a pot black?
Now, you must understand something. This coalition is something that just started, I think, early part of the year. And then in trying to go into coalition, you need to pick people from different places. You see people leaving a PDP for ADC, the people leaving Labour Party for ADC, and some are not ready to leave but were ready to work with you. Those are political activities going on. That's
not campaign.
No, I don't look at that as campaign, because the thing is there has to be alignment and
that
realignment.
The APC is doing that is considered an illegal campaign.
Recently, I think I saw a video of a group of celebrities and others somewhere in Maraba or Nyanya distributing 500 naira and some foodstuffs and then telling people, you understand, to vote for APC and come 2027 vote for Tinubu. That is campaign.
Illegal campaign.
Illegal campaigning. What they are doing is quite different from what ADC is doing. ADC is doing what they call networking, trying to realignment and alignment, who wants to join us, put their asses together and prepare.
Don't you think that what these celebrities are doing for the Tinubu-led administration,
if you are talking about humanitarian services,
is also a form of one, a form of humanitarian services. Secondly, a form of networking for the APC
if you are going
at the grassroots.
If you are going for humanitarian services, it's quite different. You understand? Go give them what they want. You are trying to give back to the people, but do not use that avenue. I think I saw one or two things to canvass for votes. I saw INEC warning some politicians recently.
No, I was coming to INEC just before you brought it up. Yes, we did see that circular posted by INEC, but they're constitutionally empowered beyond making rhetorics to take decisive actions. I know the APC had, debunked associations with the posters making rounds in Lagos and Abuja. But as an electoral umpire, beyond those rhetorics, what do you think they can do to show Nigerians that indeed they are frowning at it?
Now, let me cite an instance. One of the things that will strengthen Nigerian political culture are reforms. The parties need reforms. The electoral bodies need reforms. And the independence of most of these institutions. INEC, like you and I know, is not independent. Because the INEC is actually independent, as they call themselves. Beyond warning, there should be sanctions. Strict sanctions. Because if one person is dealt with, others will stop. But because it's just a normal verbal thing, an institution of the government, you just make a statement and has it stopped? People are still campaigning.
But if INEC becomes fully independent, even financially, which many people believe has been the major bedrock of this sort of partisanship that INEC has with the ruling party of the day, whether now or before. How do you think INEC can actually become truly autonomous, even generate its own funds, run itself by itself, and sort of stand by as the umpire that it's supposed to be?
INEC is not a profit-making organization.
So it must depend on the government.
So it must depend on the government.
Which technically means non-independence.
Well, when I mean what's the name of INEC? Independent National Electoral Commission, which means there's a form of independence.
And you are arguing that it's not independent.
No, when you say independence, I'm not talking about financial independence right now.
What
because
sort of
definitely they will
independence
still have to depend on independence in terms of decision making. It's like a referee in a football team. Man U, Chelsea is playing. Do you understand? Yeah. Does the referee, even if it is Man U that is hosting, does the referee need to listen to whoever owns the stadium?
Certainly.
No, he's an umpire and is meant to be very unbiased, highly impartial. That is what we are expecting from INEC. The referee is actually paid by a party, not by a Man U, but is paid by an organization.
By a football body.
Football body. And then at the same time, he is not even to listen to the football body on who wins the match or who loses the match. Because people are watching, spectators are watching. That's what I expect from INEC. Financially, they depend on the government for funding. Constitutionally, whatever act brings about INEC, establishes INEC, you understand, they are to be lived by that and be bound and are bounded by that. Yeah. But then they are electoral umpires. You are not supposed to be biased. They are not supposed to be partisan at all. But here in Nigeria, which is part of our political culture these days, you say that INEC is highly sometimes, most times, biased. It's not supposed to be like that. So until that is changed, and these things are historical sometimes, some of them are institutional. And that's why it's quite hard for us to correct until the electoral reforms, until the parties are internally reformed I'm talking about internal democracy right now. These things will continue to play.
In your opinion, what is a viable, straightforward way out of this debacle?
It's very easy.
How?
Reforms.
What sort of reforms?
I just mentioned we need electoral reform. People have been canvassing for electoral reforms. INEC initially came up with the issue of the last elections, IREV, electronic
BVAS.
transmission of the BVAS. Did we follow those things? It's one thing making decisions. Monies were spent to procure most of this equipment, and then suddenly they develop issues, and nobody's held accountable. That's still where the issue of accountability comes in. Somebody has to answer and pay. But because we do these things, and nobody's held responsible, nobody's paying for them, and nobody gives a hoot. Why? Someone at the top is giving the orders, and nothing can happen. Accountability, transparency is very important. Integrity as a leader is very important. Once those things are not there, then what are we looking for?
Now,
It becomes a recycled thing.
Now, still staying with INEC and using 2023 as a case study, INEC, after making a promise, came back to say they have the prerogative to interpret the Electoral Act as they deem fit in terms of transmission of results in real time. Now, people have talked about the fact that it seems as though transmission works in off-cycle elections, in by-elections most likely, but when it comes to the general elections, we still have this issue. Some of the proposals made in line with electoral reforms is for the conduct of all elections in Nigeria in a single-day poll. What do you make of this recommendation? Is it attainable?
No, it's not attainable. Looking at one, we have security issues, and we have areas that are highly inaccessible, riverine areas, and the rest. Conducting all elections in one day, for now, I don't think we are ready for it. Like I said, security is a problem. And then you can imagine even when those materials are released, sometimes they don't get to their areas on time because of one, road terrain, you understand, and some of them security issues. It's not easy in accessing those areas. So I still want to believe that we can still follow the same process. Maybe the presidential and national assembly in one day, and then governorship and the rest in another day. Fine, but all in one day is going to be a serious blunder.
Now we have elections coming up on Saturday, by-elections in over 16 constituencies. It's going to be another time for Nigerians to really look at the way we conduct our elections. But another factor that mitigates around these conversations is participation, the voter apathy being experienced. Coincidentally, there's also the CVR beginning in August as well. How key is it that we get this right ahead of 2027?
Well, there has been voter apathy so far. With the conduct of the last elections, Nigerians are like, why am I going to waste my time to queue up, sometimes under the rain and sun, to vote when they already know who is going to win? And this is why I expect the national, recently I was asked, do we still have that organization, National Orientation Agency?
It's still very much functional.
To do their work. Nigerians need to be educated. They need to know their civic duties. They need to know their rights and obligations. You understand why you need to come out and vote? Because it's not just about criticizing. The power is with the people. And sometimes, look at the last elections in Lagos State. As massive as elections were and wonderful as they were, it got to a point where they could not rig. It was obvious that the Labour Party won the elections, and so it could not be tampered with. There are ways we as citizens can come out to vote. And these things we talk about rigging will not even work because it will be too obvious. We could stand even with the force and the thuggery to defend our votes and get it right. Like I said, it still resides with us, Nigeria. The change we are talking about is not APC or PDP that will bring about the change. It is Nigerians. It is you, it is yourself and myself that can bring about the change, because democracy is with the people. Power resides with the people.
Now we the people of Nigeria, one of the lines from the Constitution, away from INEC now, that talks about the recommendations that you say would help in setting us back on the right path. There have been town hall hearings across parts of the country. But the challenge is in a difference in opinion. Some persons believe that we need an entirely new constitution. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, believes that it is not the document, it's the operators. He says there are more beautiful constitutions across Africa, but there's a challenge with the operators of those constitutions, and hence why we the people is not reflected in the yearnings of persons and the practice of ethical governance, as is the topic of conversation. What do you make of this opinion? Do we need a new constitution? Do we need to change the operators?
Well, I think, let me keep you honest. I told someone recently that if you pick Donald Trump and bring him to Nigeria to rule Nigeria, he will fail. Why? The Constitution. If you pick Bola Ahmed Tinubu and take him to the US to rule the United States, he will succeed. Why? The Constitution. We have a constitution that a group of young men just sat down who are in power. Do you understand? And decided to bring up a document to favor them. I want us to look at setting up a constitution drafting committee where the National Assembly is not part of it. Because if I'm in power,
that's quite controversial.
No, if I'm in power today, we're three in this room, and then let's want to make laws about this place. We're definitely going to make those laws to favor us and favor our cronies and probably our godsons when we leave.
If we are corrupt politicians.
Well, you know that corruption is the dawn of the day. Corruption has become part of our political culture.
And that's what we're trying to change.
Yes, that's what we're trying to change. So if we're talking about ethical governance, then let's get the right people that will sit down and not be about them.
So without the National Assembly, who are those who will be part of this?
Look, it's very simple. Get technocrats, get the traditional leaders, because right now I'm one of those canvassing for traditional leaders to be part of governance. So let's have the fourth tier of government, because they deal with the grassroots the more. The local government system has failed, even with the new, it's still not working.
But the constitutional review that is currently ongoing.
Yeah, so there's been write-ups on that.
There've been
trying to bring them in.
There've been consultations, even with these traditional rulers, community members that you have been talking about, youth leaders. It's open to the general public.
This is Nigeria, my brother.
Yeah.
These things are open to the general public. Ideas, reviews, whatever are being collected from these different areas and from these interest groups. When it gets to the top, do these things work? They will still want to. Remember, there has been issues of let's change systems. Let's try to bring in. I think at a period they were even trying to say, look, let's put the National Assembly members on pension and all of those stuffs, and Nigerians kicked against it. There have been several laws they were trying to enact, or bills, whatever, to favor them, and Nigerians been kicking against it. Let's go back to the issue of when they came in newly and monies were supposed to release for the SUVs they had. Do you understand? Now, on a good day, I'm not against buying SUVs for these people, but the fact is, if you're in power, whatever you're using belongs to the government. And I feel when you're leaving, you should leave them, except there's another law saying when you're going, you should go with them. So the next persons that are coming are entitled to use those things for a while, except they want to buy them. Because for me, it's wastefulness. Now, if we're empowered to agree on such things, definitely we're going to enact laws that will favor us. And the next man that comes in will look at one or two things that do not favor them. I want to kick it out and then bring in some other things to favor them. And so it becomes a continuum.
The solution is an entirely new constitution that takes away some of these privileges,
thank you,
that they enjoy.
Power resides at the center so much. I just give you an instance. That if you take Nigerian president to the US, he will succeed. Because constitutionally, the document they have there, does not make them too powerful.
Let me get your take on a statement made recently by Labour Party's presidential candidate in the last election, Mr. Peter Obi, where he had promised that 4 years is enough for him to transform Nigeria, and that if he were to be elected president, in 4 years he would serve just one term and Nigerians will see a lot of change. What do you make of this statement, which has been heavily criticized by individuals and even groups much like the Arewa Consultative Forum that said that the North is not swayed by a one-term pledge?
Do we need 8 years to make Nigeria work?
That's why I'm asking.
No.
The constitutionally, it's only one term.
No, constitutionally, you understand, if you're running for the first time, you have 2 terms. That is if you, after your first term,
after your first time, you can do.
But he is saying he needs 1 term. You know, this whole thing about rotational presidency is one of the things I told you. One of the things that is hindering ethical governance and political culture in Nigeria is ethnicity, religion. Those things are pulling us back. For me, I don't believe in those things. Let the best rule. Why do we keep rotating? That's why we keep having these issues. We bring ethnicity, bring religion, and then we get stagnated. And then at the end of the day, we end up picking people who are not even qualified because of what? These whole things we're talking about, because it has formed part of our political culture. Who talked about, PDP brought this whole thing about rotational presidency, 2 years here, and then after that it goes back to the north. And then at the end of the day, you end up losing the very qualified and competent people. If Obi says he wants to do 4 years, and 4 years is enough for him, fine. But I think 4 years is okay for you to transform Nigeria. See, once you have the right leaders, competent leaders, you obey the rule of law, because one of the things that brings about ethical governance is rule of law. Equity and justice. Nobody's above the law. Accountability. Tell us what you're doing. I just saw recently, I think this morning, 493 billion shared to how many people?
5 million households.
Can there be a document telling us how they arrived at those 5 million households? How did they share this money? I want to see one person come out and say, I got this from them. Who was in charge of this? Let us see how you shared it. That is transparency. That's accountability. It's not just giving us figures. That's what we want to see in governance.
Now talking about this period of term or a tenure in which a president is required to fix the country, successive governments have told Nigeria that they inherited what many would call a bad government. Now, this is one of the most frequent excuses used, particularly 2 years into each of these administrations we've seen. Now, hypothetically speaking, do you think that 2 years down the line, should a certain Peter Obi emerge, we won't have this recurrence of the normal excuse of how much of a backlog has been inherited?
Our problem is that there's no continuity in governance. Mr. A comes in, uses an iPhone, and then Mr. B comes and decides to use a Samsung. There's no continuity. If there's continuity in governance, we won't be having this issue of backload. You inherited this. Now let me give you an answer. Buhari, the late President Buhari, is APC. And one of the things that has made Lagos work is because there's been one party ruling Lagos. And they have a particular framework. Like a template for Lagos is there. So whoever comes in, the day another party takes over Lagos, you see a change. But because it's conservative, it's been same party. So everybody that comes in...
you mean same individuals?
Same party with different individuals.
Okay.
But running a template for Lagos State. But for Nigeria, you're having parties. And I expected that after late President Buhari, Asiwaju coming in, you shouldn't be talking about inheriting, because all of them were part of this government. They were part of the system. So complaining about Buhari shouldn't be there, because it's the same APC. It was a PDP that came in. They had the right to complain and say, okay, they inherited this and all of that, so it's a new thing. And that's why the system is slow. But this is from APC to APC. There shouldn't be anything like inherited, because most of them were part of it.
One of the inheritance we cannot argue is our national debt. The external debt servicing continues up until tomorrow. Quite coincidentally, I wouldn't like to use this example, but it's been one that has been recurrent. Some Nigerians, particularly those in the law enforcement and armed forces, have found that the celebration of our sportswomen in the D Tigers and the Super Falcons, and the 150 million naira that was rewarded to them with 3-bedroom flats. People are talking about the fact that there's a recommendation to borrow 21 billion naira on the desk of the National Assembly, whilst their pensioners, retired policemen and armed military men who are yet to get their entitlements. How do you judge this inherited debt and the way the government has gone about rewarding Nigerians who are actually doing well, whilst we still have some on the streets protesting?
When you go to borrow money, you borrow money because I know for most of this money is having interest. And so you're borrowing money. It's like borrowing money to invest. So whatever you want to use those monies for, you'll be able to, translate. You understand? Where you could probably be able to raise back what you got, even if it's 50%. But how do you borrow money and then use the money sometimes to buy stuffs, cars, houses?
So sometimes it goes out as palliatives.
Palliatives.
Cash transfer.
So those money, they're not coming back. And then you need to pay back with interest. And then for the, I don't see anything bad in rewarding them. For a very long time, Nigeria has not even won a medal or gold or anything. We perform so poorly sport-wise. So it's for me, it's motivating them. They've done well. They made us proud. Put our name up there.
It's not entirely
You
wrong
understand? It's
for
for me,
them.
it's not wrong.
It's not entirely wrong for them to be rewarded
No.
with such incentives, juicy incentives. But the argument is that the president should have balanced it out by doing that for the athletes, the D Tigers and the Super Falcons,
And then take care of the
while
pensioners.
also taking care of the pensioners, which yesterday we got reports of the president ordering for a review of the police pension scheme and also offering free healthcare services
Yes,
to
I saw that too,
retirees
yeah.
who might not be able to take care of themselves, which is good. But do you think that the president could have done more?
No,
in that aspect?
that came very late.
Okay.
That's because of a reaction from the citizens and the public, but that came late. Like I said, I'm talking about accountability and transparency. I know the ball stops on the president's table, but the president can't be everywhere. I'm not trying to exonerate him or make excuses for him. You understand? But he appointed people. They are ministers, they are DGs, they are executive secretaries in charge of all these areas. Somebody has got to be held responsible. Beyond asking for, call whoever is in charge. What is happening to this? We have a budget every year, and most monies are budgeted for these things, all of them. These people they have worked, and monies have been deducted from their salary for pension. So why hold on to the money? Somebody has got to be held as accountable and say, what is going on? What is happening? And then if you need to release the rod, or the stick, release it and sanction them. By the time these things are done, Nigerians will know, yes, you're working.
Now, this question brings me to the issue which my colleague just harped on, being able to balance it out. Now, particularly with the pensioners, it's gotten very ugly. Many might talk about Showere's intent based on his own political ambitions, but as a journalist as he is, the publisher of Sahara Reporters, he had protested about the IGP's tenure long before now, and with the police pensioners also raising more dust on the issue, he's been arrested. The former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, seized the opportunity to talk about freedom of press and a suppression of our constitutional rights to a protest. What do you make of the political culture when it has to do with freedom of press and protests?
Now, that was to take us back to the constitution, like I said. It's one of the reasons why we are saying, let's get a new constitution, because I think beside the president of Russia, Nigerian president is going to be constitutionally one of the most powerful presidents in the world, constitutionally, because the ball stops at his table. Whatever he says is final. Nobody can question it. Do you understand? We still fall back to reforms. Even the press, civil societies need reforms. Yeah. Then Nigerians need to be educated on their rights, and some people don't know their rights. They don't know their duties. They don't know their obligations as citizens, and that's why the security forces do things, and because we don't know. I have the right to protest. I could write, and after writing, I have the right to protest, as long as it's peaceful protest. But like I said, they come up with different stories that your protest, there's a security, there's this, it's politically motivated, and then they stop you, which is wrong. See what has happened in the US with all that's happened? They are protesting. Are they killing them? The highest is they arrest them. You violate my rights, I'll sue you to court. But then the judiciary too is compromised.
How?
So even the judiciary need reforms. Seriously.
Most people come here and they say the judiciary is compromised. But they fail to give detailed explanation and reason as to why we continue to say the judiciary is compromised.
What interpretation do you need again? We have, look at the last election, look at the cases that came up. Would you sit down here and say they were right or they were pragmatic, or
the judgments?
Those judgments were sound? Would you say there was no technicalities in them, or that no interference, or somebody didn't stay somewhere to make a call and say, let this happen? Would you say that? I saw that Showore was back into his house and was arrested. Who gave that order? What are they arresting him for?
There are some notions that the IGP has a vendetta against him following earlier protests on his tenure and
can
it be substantiated?
Well, I can't sit down here and want to defend that because I don't know much about that, but I feel that his rights have been, it's been abused. That's infringement on his rights. I have every right to, the IGP's tenure had come to an end. Why elongate it?
An extension of
Why extend it as well too? So you understand? So I have every right to protest and say, look, this man overstayed is welcome. And because it's so obvious, everybody will say, come on, you're keeping him there because of 2027.
And being a journalist as well that he is, and a human rights
good, a human rights
activist,
activist. So he has every right. So this is infringement on his rights. It is wrong. I expect the president or whoever is to say, no, what's going on? Call the IG to order. It's becoming a personal thing against him. Personal
It's a
vendetta, like you say.
personal vendetta.
Now, Dr. Edwards, Shora is just one person. Many will talk about him as being controversial. But a man who served in government as well, who has been revered as an academic don, Professor Patotomi, has also had his own ordeal now, not with the police, but with the Department of State Services. He was also taken to court over his comments on an alleged shadow government, and they need to put the government in check in some way. What's happening to this freedom of speech? Particularly, I don't know if you see any wrong in Professor Patotomi's alleged shadow government comments, and they need to be able to do your duties and obligations, much like you said, the Constitution empowers individuals.
You see, it's unfortunate that institutions of government today are being used against those who come out to speak the truth. It's wrong. It's not supposed to be like that. Once you come out and speak the truth and say what is meant to be, they use the institutions of government against you. I see, like somebody said, I want to quote someone, when you come to this side, your sins are forgiven, and all of those stuff. You know, it's not supposed to be like that. You understand? Those institutions are there to serve even the public.
Yeah.
You understand? They have what they are meant to do. There's a modus operandi for them. What is wrong in a man saying this is happening? Why don't you do it this way? And then you go after him. So it means you keep quiet. You understand? You don't say anything even when you say that it's wrong. See, in governance, criticisms are very important, even as a human being. When you criticize me, it's meant for me to sit back, do a sober reflection, look at what you have said, pick up the positive things you said, and then probably flush out or filter out the negative. But then it keeps me in the position where I know if I'm on the right path or the wrong path. Because see, people must talk about it. The only time nobody talks about you is when you're dead. Nigerians are demanding for good governance. And it's very simple. Good roads, water, light, and good health care. We don't care whatever you're doing. That's what Nigerians are demanding for. Nigerians are demanding for transparency, accountability, that we are all treated equally, irrespective of who you are.
Many Nigerians are of the opinion, or rather, even if they're not so vocal about it, in their minds and hearts, I believe, they think that the rot in the system is rather too deep to be fixed immediately. For instance, the Keys of Shore that recently staged a protest in front of the force headquarters, protesting for the a review of the police pension scheme, which the president has now ordered for that to be done via PENCOM and the other agency. People have said that the same police he's protesting for are the ones now assaulting him. How do we fix this? How do we? Sometimes you think of it and it's a little too heavy to the mind to even fathom the level of rot that has eaten deep into the fabric of our system.
So the issue is, like I said, is one, I feel it's historical and it's systemic. And then it's something that has to do with, it's beyond party or government.
It
starts with me
individuals.
And you. Because the issue is every Nigerian is either corrupt. That's how I look at it. But it's not true. I am not giving up on Nigeria. Nigeria can be fixed. There has to be a reorientation of every Nigerian. Our mindset.
And the National Orientation Agency.
That is where they're not doing their work. That's what I say. I asked someone recently, do we still have that? I know it used to be MAMSA those days, and then suddenly national. And so I keep asking, are they still there? You watch NTA and all that, so you see them bringing up different things. Why don't say that again?
They seem to have had a rebranding, and to their credit, they also made out time to come sit here with us and discuss in terms of what they're doing online on their verified page on X as well. But when I was speaking with them, he also made the case for our values as a people in terms of the smallest unit in society, the family. He said we're at a time when the realities of our current economy has made families jettison values. It's almost quite sad to see that beyond the youths who are being blamed, the most recent incidents with Value Jets and K1 the Ultimate just showed that even a quite advanced individual can be badly behaved.
That's true.
What do you make of this role of the family and, by extension, Nigerians in terms of their duty and obligation?
Like I already said, it starts with you and I. Charity, they say, begins at home. And it's quite unfortunate that in our families today, there are no values again. That's why I said we need to start. I expect National Orientation Agency to go back, even to nursery schools, to primary schools, and start this thing. We see, because the thing is, I told someone yesterday that you can't even find a honest Nigerian. Every artisan on the road, by the roadside mechanics, you can't find one who is honest once they want to rip you off. And it's wrong for us. Our name outside the country, once they see with the green passport, oh, Nigerian, everybody is into Yahoo, or everybody is corrupt. No. Nigerians are making waves. Look at the Tigress. Look at Super Falcons.
It's almost like an unspoken
Thank you.
blacklist.
They're making us proud. And we have Nigerians abroad, professionals, doctors and the rest outside, who are making this nation proud. It shouldn't be like that. So the family has a role to play. The mother, the father, the teachers in school, the lecturers. There has to be a reorientation.
Yeah.
That look, we can work, we can do things right. Okay, let me give you an example. Why is it the moment Nigerians cross the shores of this country into even African countries, they behave themselves? Why? Why are we not taking the same mentality there? They know their rules guiding them. They know when you break the law. They know when you break the traffic light or beat the traffic light. They don't need to pursue you. They will come to where you are and drop paper for you. How come once the pilot announces descent into Nigeria, everybody in the plane becomes, you see that Nigerian attitude will come in. Why? We need to start with the laws. The laws in Nigeria sometimes are made for the poor.
Now, Doctor, sorry to cut you. I quite agree with what you're saying. But it's now the proverbial saying that some persons are bigger than institutions, or like they say in the movies, above the law. How is it that we now have individuals who are stronger than institutions? And much like my colleague asked, what's the timeline of refixing Nigeria in terms of being able to get it right?
It's very simple. Good governance. A man who will respect rule of law. We have a constitution that is binding us. You took an oath to defend the constitution, defend the Federal Republic of Nigeria. No godfatherism. Like the late President Buhari said, I am for everybody and I'm for nobody, even though he didn't keep to his words. So we need a man who will say, I belong to Nigerians, I am for everybody, but I'm for nobody. So when you break the law, even if you're my minister, even if you're my wife or son, you face the law. If we start that with an example, Nigerians will change.
But we have several examples of persons who seem to still have immunity despite having left office with humongous amounts of graft cases on them. But is either we find them theatrically fainting or giving excuses on health grounds,
or being rolled in hospital beds and wheelchairs.
So that is where we find ourselves. Yet we have institutions of government that are meant to cater for. I had someone said, if I do not arrest this person, I should resign. And the person is still roaming the streets of Nigeria free. So what happens to the talk about the vow you made? So if I was the president, I'll fire you. Why haven't you arrested? This man is roaming the streets of Abuja freely, and you have not arrested him. After the vow. So I expect that I should hold you accountable for it. What is he waiting for? Because somebody somewhere is big. Because the thing is, there are people who are bigger than the law. I wait for the red light to change to green, and I see a convoy pass. Do you understand? Yeah. And then you're bigger than the law. And one of the things so I'm sorry to bring this in is to baffle me is, I said one of these days when I get to sit one-on-one with the IG, I'm going to ask him. I see the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with his plate number, Mr. President. I see governors with their plate numbers. This issue of people covering their plate numbers, is it constitutional? Is the IG the one giving them because it's also breaking up the law. Why everybody covering plate numbers? For what? Who are you hiding from?
Trying to act sophisticated.
And then you beat the traffic, and then you cover those plate numbers and still have security people following you. So what's it? If the governor and the president have their numbers exposed, who are you to cover your plate number? And why are you covering it? So I expect the institutions of government, Road safety is there, the police is there, the VIOs are there to stop all these things. But because somebody is bigger than the law, and in Abuja, you know the normal syndrome. Do you know who I am? Even a clever man will tell you, do you know who I am? It's not supposed to be like that. With good governance, with men of integrity, men who are transparent, with the rule of law enforced, these things will stop. See, it will not. It doesn't. You don't need 4 years to fix Nigeria. The moment you're determined, and you use one person as an example, others will sit up.
Now let's talk about our federating units, because we're practicing federalism. It's been questioned if it's true or not. But now, in the most part of our conversation, we've talked about the role of the president, the National Assembly. We're yet to talk about the state governors. And by extension, you talked about the need for a fourth tier. However, the third tier, despite a Supreme Court ruling, has failed to work.
Yeah.
How do these governors play their role as well in allowing for this other tiers to work?
Well, you know, the governors have become demigods today in Nigeria. That's why the National Assembly has become their retirement point. Do you understand? I mean,
serve for 8
serve for 8 years,
and then you retire to the National
Assembly. For me, I look at it as, are these people, I'm sorry, is it that, it's like you demoting yourself. Governor of a state, 8 years, and then you now retire to go and head one-third of that state, represent one-third senatorial district in the National Assembly. As what? If you're leaving the National Assembly to be governor, beautiful. And then, like I said, they have become demigods. That's why the local government thing ain't working. Just the same way the ball ends at the president's table, the ball ends at the governor's table. To the point where the governors can even frustrate who becomes president. Once the governor is up, you're on your own. But is this supposed to be like that? Is that what the Constitution says? We have jettisoned even the Constitution. We only use the Constitution when it has to favor us. When it doesn't favor us, we dump that Constitution, give it a different interpretation, bring in the courts to interpret it in their own way, because most of these interpretations are vague. When you're having an ambiguous interpretation, you bring in lawyers and senior advocates that will give you based on different meaning.
Let's talk about the local government autonomy that has been granted to LGAs across the country. And it's something that has been a topic of debate for a very long time from the moment the Supreme Court made that pronouncement. We have seen some states adhering to it, while others have all this while remained adamant and have refused to adhere to the orders of the Supreme Court. From your perspective, what do you make of this financial and administrative autonomy granted to local governments?
Well, you know, I was born in the late 70s. I was born in 75, and at least I could say that I experienced grassroots politics very well. It's something I so envied when I saw the powers of a local government chairman, the councillors, the vice chairman, and I could see development even in the grassroots. It was amazing. I'm not saying that again right now. So I see a situation where money from local governments hits the governor's table, and then the governor just releases what he wants to give to them. And so that you go to local government headquarters, it's empty Mondays to Fridays. They only come to work when they want to pay. No development, nothing is happening. In where I come from, the South states, it is NDDC that is doing what the local governments are supposed to do. So if the Supreme Court had ruled, it is one of the best judgment they had given. But enforcement is the issue. I expect the president at this point, just the same thing he did to Rivers State, not by removing the governors per se, but by stopping allocation to the state and said, until this is enforced, no more federal allocation to you.
Now this no more federal allocation, particularly with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in reference, as his time as governor in Lagos, has been one of the case studies. People talk about the illegalities of having LCDAs and the fact that they are not constitutionally
recognized,
acknowledged.
Yes.
But up until now, Lagos still operates with LCDAs despite the threats by then President Olusegun Obasanjo to stop allocations. But for River State, it doesn't seem to have changed anything.
Well, you know, like I said, politics in Nigeria is full of too much drama. And that's one area I'm very careful to talk about, you know, the issue of River State, comprising what happened in Lagos State. Because there's always the saying, those who live in glass houses don't throw stone. And sometimes it's easy to sit here and talk, but until you go in to the system, before you understand that it's not as easy are said when you're outside. You see, you can stay outside and make all the promises and all the brahaha and say all the things you want to say. By the time you go into the system, you understand that it's not that easy. So you see yourself repeating what the same person you criticize had done. And then you sometimes don't understand how you saw yourself in that particular issue. So the issue of Rivers State is something that sometimes when I sit down and I just shake my head and I say, because I've heard the VP say things like, constitutionally, he used the issue of Jonathan when you're trying to remove him, former President Jonathan, that as president you can't even remove
A governor.
not a governor, a councillor. Not to talk of a governor. And today a governor is removed. And today I see that you have a sole administrator who has now appointed a state electoral commissioner, you know, and then preparing to conduct elections. So
Despite the
Supreme Court ruling. So now would you say the elections conducted are going to be conducted is constitutional?
When the government itself or the system is
highly unconstitutional as well too. So you could see, so it works here and it doesn't work here. So it's like, if it favors you, fine. Once it doesn't favor you, you find excuses around it, and then you get some lawyers to give you one interpretation they want to give to you to suit you.
to an ambiguous law.
So it is, we'll keep rigmaroling. We just keep remaining stagnated. We're not moving until these things are corrected. We have a constitution that guides whatever we do. It's like a Bible to the Christians. It's like the Quran to the Muslims. Once you do anything outside that, you understand, you are contravening what that book says. And these things are in English language. It's not in any language.
Now, Doctor, one of the other excuses a lot of Nigerians make, and more or less when you make the comparison of where we are as a nation to the likes of the United States, they ask the question of, do you know how old their democracy is? Back here, it's a question of how much we have evolved as a people and where we intend to get to. People have talked about looking for a homegrown democracy that works for Nigeria and not trying to copy from our colonial masters and even from America, as it were. People have made a lot of propositions. People have talked about a single elongated term. People have talked about creating more states to ensure that this ethical governance trickles to the least unit. People are talking about quelling agitations here and there and fixing the insecurity that has bedeviled the country. Overarchingly, do this still count as some of the internal solutions that we might explore in finding this homegrown democracy we look for?
I don't want to believe in how old the United States has been. I mean, look at Dubai. You understand? Look at Dubai. There are so many other countries that are not as old as Nigeria. But because, you see, there are things they have made up your mind. This thing we have to make up our mind as a nation to get things right. And that's true. Until we make up our mind and then stop playing, like I said, there are a lot of factors. One of them are historical. Ethnicity is pulling us back. You understand? I told someone that the day you zone presidency to the East will scatter.
Why so?
Because that is when the Anambra Brahma will tell you he's more Ibotic than the man from Ebonyi State. It's even within the family, you have these issues. In the north today, you hear I'm from the northeast. I'm from the north central. I'm more northern than you are. You now come to the north central. Sometimes they call themselves middle belt. We are not north too. You
have situations of the Hausa Bakwe and the Bamba Bakwe.
You understand? So it's funny. It shouldn't be like that. I always believe in let the best, the most competent rule. You come in, forget about giving out, because see, I expected so much. I mean, he's doing great. I mean, so far, he's a man. He's doing great, but sometimes I just feel giving out positions to political cronies to reward them, sometimes it's not the best. You can give them other things. Bring in technocrats who will lead.
Federal character principle. People have looked at the appointments and also said that there's some tendencies of being nepotistic in that way.
For as long as we can't do without ethnic policy in Nigeria, there will be some level of nepotism even in appointments. I've seen people drawn from the National Security, from the EFCC to immigration, to different, they say they're all Yorubas. Of course, President Buhari did the same thing as well too. You understand? Yeah,
they say he had set the precedence for what is happening.
For what is happening, you understand? So what do you expect? He will definitely once in a while give out roads to one or two places, but then to see a section that is also highly neglected and saying, hey, we don't have anybody at the center. Why is it like that? So are we actually practicing true federalism? Is federal character at work even in the appointments? That's a question we ask ourselves. Like I said, good governance and political structure can be achieved, the good one. I wrote a book recently on what I perceive, what I feel should be our own form of democracy. I told you these things are structural and historical because don't forget the days of colonial era. Indirect rule worked very well in the north and then worked partially in the west and never worked in the east. And so when the white man was leaving, they had to hand over power to those they felt things worked, where they could bring control. To areas that nothing worked, it's like it was sidelined. And so these things we are seeing are historical. And we need to wake up and say, no, enough is enough. This is a new Nigeria for all of us. Let us make things work. Why do I need to run? Why is the Jackpot syndrome there? People are tired. Those days in Nigeria, people come from outside to Nigeria, not leaving Nigeria outside
of the country.
So there's a brain drain. So we have to make up our mind. Like I said, it's not about the government, it's about me and you. Believing in this project called Nigeria and ensuring that we do the right things. Good governance must start from home, must start from this organization that you're running.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for your time on the program this morning.
Thank you so much.
Quite incisive and thought-provoking. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's nice having you around.